All right, we are within 1 month of the NFL draft in 2022. He's Paul Dottino, I am John Schmeelk. You will see nothing but mock drafts hit your internet screens over the next few weeks as we head up to Las Vegas on April 28th. Paul, let's start with Bucky Brooks over at NFL.com. He has a brand new mock draft out. A couple of familiar names: Evan Neal to the Giants at 5 and pass rusher Jermaine Johnson at 7.
The contrast between these two players, John, is that Neal's a 3-year starter out of Alabama who has played 3 different positions, a couple of tackle spots and one of the guard spots. Johnson, on the other hand, only a 1-year starter at Florida State as a defensive end. So you look at these two guys and you say, well, look, they've had some big-time production at some big-time programs. But the experience factor for Neal, in fact, to be frank with you, that's one of the reasons why some people like him better than Aquanu, just because he's been a 3-year starter. Will that be held against Johnson?
Yeah, and the fans might ask, well, why was Jermaine Johnson only a 1-year starter? Well, he was stuck behind Azeez Ojulari and those other 18,000 Georgia first-round picks on defense. So he went to Florida State, then had a very productive year down there in Florida this year. Now he's coming out in the draft. All right, next mock draft, let's go over to our buddies at PFF. Steve Palazzolo, Paul. Ike Aquanu out of NC State, the offensive lineman at 5. Again, a name we've talked a lot about, very familiar with him. And then Derek Stingley, cornerback out of LSU. He has not worked out yet. He's been dealing with a foot injury that he suffered during the football season. He hopes to work out before the draft, but boy, he has all the talent you want out of a cornerback.
Well, this is a guy whose arrow kind of was real high at the beginning because he came in and was big-time productive at LSU. But then after that, kind of became a little inconsistent. And then he had the foot injury. So now here's the thing. Where are people going to project him after they finally get some medical reports on him? See, until that happens, I think the scope is wide open as to where you think he might land.
Yeah, as a freshman 3 years ago, probably the best corner in the country. If he played that well the last 2 years, he might be the first overall pick in this draft. The problem is that the last 2 years weren't as productive, and there were injuries, a foot. There was an injury the year before, too. So those are the questions you have to ask.
Great cover skill set, but the production was a bit inconsistent.
All right, let's go to our third mock draft over to CBS. Ryan Wilson, Paul. Evan Neal, again, a familiar name. And then Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. Now, he's run his pro day. No official time came out, but most people, based on reports, had him in the 4.7 to 4.73 range. Disappointing time at the combine when everyone else was running on that really fast turf.
Yes.
He only ran a 4.59 at safety, which was in the lower end. I think it was next to last in terms of all the safeties that ran in Indy. So how do you think teams are going to look at that? His other athletic testing was pretty good in Indy, by the way. His jumps and stuff, that testing was okay. But how do you think that might impact his draft value? Somebody that a lot of people had as their top graded player on the board, even though safety is not one of those premier spots.
John, people who really like him a lot are going to come right back and say, play speed. Play speed is different than 40 speed.
Watch the tape.
And consequently, the guy made plays all over the field at Notre Dame, a guy who's going to play multiple roles in your defense. But as we've talked in the last several years, as we see all these versatile guys continue to come into the NFL, it's all about your scheme. And where does your coordinator see the best fit for him to get maximum usage out of him? And that's going to be really the biggest question that anybody has to answer, more than play speed versus 40 speed.
Paul, stay tuned to the Giants mobile app, Giants.com, and of course all the Giants social media platforms as we continue to cover everything leading up to the NFL draft in Las Vegas on April 28th.